Hey everybody, so I am rolling out our Sacred Sexuality series EDU about a week earlier than projected. So that's always fun when I get things done early, but I am changing course a little bit. Let me explain. So in our Sacred Sexuality series, we cover A to Z sex magic. We started with doing golden shadow work, the self evals to the auric anatomy or psychic anatomy of sex work. And we've kind of gone through all the different stages and phases. And we've been working the last couple of months with the dark goddesses. When we first started the series, we really focused on Isis and Lilith. We've opened that up to Pambagira, Mama Bridget, and on we go. So last month, I know I said this month I was going to roll out another 9 rituals in working with the dark goddesses in sacred sexual practice. However, earlier this month, for those of you on my Patreon who are in a paid tier, every single month, if you're in the $5 or higher tiers, I do a special EDU. And earlier this month, I chose the Pentacles of Jupiter and I kind of broke out what they are, how to work with them, and how great they are just as talismans that we can incorporate in our day to day life for different, intents. And I got such great feedback on that. First of all, thank you so much. Secondly, I thought, well, I use the Pentacles of Venus in my sex magic and my sacred sexuality practice. So guess what I did? I did a whole presentation on the 5 Pentacles of Venus so that you too can work with them in your sacred sexuality practice or really any practice. These are such versatile tools that we can really incorporate into all sorts of magical practices, spiritual practices, you name it. Whether you're a polytheistic or if you're a solo practitioner, if you're an earth-based practitioner, you can really use these for a multitude of reasons. So I'm going to kind of walk you through in today's PowerPoint the 5 Pentacles, what they are, how to use them. And I'm also going to kind of give you some ins and outs of my own personal practical use of these pentacles. So first and foremost, let me give you a peek here of what they look like. Let me share my screen. Maybe or maybe not. Hang on. There we go. Why is that always like the hardest part, you guys? I've been doing this for over a year. I mean, why? Why do I always struggle? Okay. So there are 5 Pentacles of Venus, and oh, this is such a small image. Let me try to make it bigger. Oh, it's so blurry. Well, at least you have a somewhat of a blurry visual. And many of you who work with me in my practice, if I've done root workings, radionics, elemental castings, or puppetry work for you, you'll probably recognize some of these because I do use them in my higher vibrational works. But this is kind of what they look like. When I did the Pentacles of Jupiter earlier this month, I kind of showed you the math behind the pentacles. And so here is the first Pentacle of Venus. If we were looking at the math point, ooh, why am I making it so big and so small? Okay. So this is kind of what the background, the charting, the math involved from an astrological lens with the first Pentacle of Venus, what it looks like. So if we were like creating one for your work. All right, so now that you've seen those couple of visuals, let me open up the PowerPoint. And once again, for this presentation, I am doing like a case study using myself again as a third party to kind of explain in more practical terms how and when to use them. So let's go through the PowerPoint first. I always get ahead of myself. All right, so the 5 Pentacles of Venus. Of course, these are from the Key of Solomon. They are used in all sorts of workings, not just Solomonic magic or ceremonial high magic, but really across the board. These are the planetary seals of love, beauty, and desire. All right, so let's talk about what are they, right? Keep it simple. And I love the way that our new PowerPoint presentations are just very on task. I feel like I'm doing a better job at not being so full of information that it's confusing. So hopefully this is working better for you guys as well. All right, so is this it is turned up. Okay, here we go. So the Key of Solomon again, and I'm just going to be very repetitive here. If you listened to my Pentacles of Jupiter presentation. It was a week or two ago. I think I actually posted it for those of you in Patreon. Some of this is a little bit repetitive because I want to explain where they come from. So it's a grimoire tradition dating to the 14th to 16th centuries. Each planet has a set of seals called the Pentacles, and they're used to call upon planetary intelligence and spirits. Again, planetary influence is a very real thing, you guys. I feel like as an omnist, and I explained this a little bit with the other presentation, that these are interconnective bridges that each planet not only represents influence in the earth realm, but they have deical associations, right? They have historical ancestral associations. So it all is just one giant interconnective bridge. What is a pentacle? So it's a talisman, it's a seal, it's inscribed with divine names, sigils, symbols. It's not a pentagram. A pentacle is a complete magical instrument unto itself. So, Venus and magic. When we're working with Venus, a lot of times what we're doing is we're working with love, beauty, desire, attraction, harmonization, of course, pleasure, art, relationships, money. I didn't put that on there, but money. Pentacles are among the most beloved, really, in a lot of practical spell work, but especially in sex magic, especially in sacred sexuality practices. They really are they're just perfect. I don't know how to describe them. They're just perfect for the type of work that we do here. So, how do they work? Each pentacle is a living object. I want you to think of it as a living, vibrating object, like everything else that exists. When it's activated, it becomes a focal point for that Venetian or Venusian energy and planetary intelligence influence, right? So they can be worn as a talisman on the body, as many of you know. I did probably 2 or 3 years ago now. Wow, but it's been a hot minute. A presentation on ritual tattoos, sacred tattoos. I have Medici with the Nostradamus seal on me. I do have some talismanic work on me. I have Saturn on me. I actually wrote out a formula, a script that incorporates the seals of Venus and Jupiter that I am planning on getting as a fine line tattoo. But that is a beautiful way to not only embody that energy, but you're constantly energetically exchanging with it. So it is a really good way. Otherwise, you can wear it as a necklace, if you don't like tattoos. You can place these on altars during spells or divination sessions. You can use them to concentrate. I can't talk today, you guys. Concentrate candles, oils, roots, whatever tools you're working with. You can draw them on petition papers or even in wax. You can carve them. You can carve them into candles. Best activated on Venus's day, which is Friday, the Venus hour, waxing moon for attraction, waning moon for release, or any kind of release work. All right, let's move me. All right, so our first pentacle of Venus. So again, I kind of reference where you can find these if you do grimoire research or if you work with solomonic magic. In the second book, The Seal of Love and Grace. Okay, so, oof, where am I here? Boy, I cut off the end of here. Hmm. You guys, I'm always going to be a work in progress, and that's okay. All right, we're all works in progress, especially when it comes to tech. All right, the first pentacle of Venus is the great seal of Venusian attraction and divine favor. It calls upon the intelligence or influence of Venus to open hearts, to draw goodwill, and really, I don't know how else to explain this, but it envelopes you, the practitioner, in sort of an aura of grace, of magnetism, right? So whoever carries this seal is said to be beloved, of all who look upon them. So people are drawn to you. You mystify them in the best possible way. They are attracted. They want to know more. They want to hear more. They want more interaction. So correspondences here. The Venetian metal is, of course, copper. Rose quartz is a strong correspondent if you're using this particular pentacle. Green or pink candles I like. I like rose or nice jasmine oil if you're using oils. And Friday during Venus hour is probably the best time to work with it or at least activate it. Glamour magic. You can wear it, carry it to become sort of like irresistibly charming. You kind of charm your whole presentation. It's really great for job interviews. You really want to charm that interviewer. For first dates, of course, if you want to make a great impression, or really any situation where impression is going to matter to you. It's great for social influence, right? So I know actually I have a couple of influencers who are clients of mine. They're great people, but they have actually kind of very secretively have incorporated the seal into some of their graphics that they have used like in their online presentations or their logos, their little like shows that they do. And I think that's wonderful. Such a great way to use this energy. But for social influence, you can draw the seal on a petition paper with your target's name if you have a target and yours linked together and burn it on a Friday during a waxing moon. For love drawing, you can place it under rose quartz on your altar if you have one during attraction spells. You can, anoint it then, of course, with rose oil, makes sense, and use a pink candle, right? You can kind of coordinate this. For self-love work, for an example, you can keep it in a red flannel bag with herbs of Venus, and we'll kind of go through what those are. And you can sleep with it under your pillow during new moon rituals too, or add it to one of your dream pillows or onto your dream altar. So that is the first pentacle. The second pentacle, again, one of the more popular pentacles. Can you guys see me? I keep moving my computer, sorry. All right, so the second pentacle of Venus is one of the more potent, love compelling seals, right, in the Solomonic tradition. So it works the level of desire that sort of ignites passion. Think of Wands energy, right? Throwing fuel onto that fire. It draws a specific person's attention. Definitely, this is great for targeted work and it awakens sort of a romantic longing, right? So, if you've been in a relationship for a while that's dry, this is a great pentacle to use to kind of reignite that passion in the relationship. So, it's particularly powerful for rekindling a flame or intensifying an existing connection that just needs a little bit more fire brought in. So, correspondences, red roses, lodestones. I love working with lodestone pairs, red candles. I like patchouli oil here. And Mars hours or, Friday for extra heat will actually correspond well with the second pentacle. So when we're talking about passions and desires, an example I put here is you can write both names, yours and your target's, on a petition paper. You can, dress that with some sort of come to me oil, whatever you like to use, and seal that with like a pentacle drawn in red ink or wax. And I would work this probably on a waxing moon. For sexual attraction, an example I gave you was drawing the seal on the sole of your shoe before a date. Um, I would wear patchouli. I go back and forth here, but I like patchouli. And then that pentacle is going to amplify magnetism at a very close range with your target. It's kind of like a consumption spell, but you don't have to get them to drink or eat anything. They're consuming the energy, the energetic output. Returning a lover, I think waning moons to remove obstacles, obviously, and then a waxing to draw them back in. You can pair this really nicely with a reconciliation candle or some sort of reconciliation root work. A candle spell anchor that you can use this one for is carving this pentacle into a red sort of pull apart couple candle. I don't know if you guys know what that is. So you can get couples candles, figural candles at any Botanica. There's a lot of online retailers that sell them. I like pouring my own, but not everybody's going to pour their own. Of course, I would definitely cleanse your candle once you receive it, but you can fix that candle with any sort of love drawing oil, and then I would burn it for 7 consecutive days after carving the pentacle into it, of course. So, a couple of examples on how to use that second pentacle. All right, the third pentacle, we are just like booking through today's presentation. The seal of harmony and union. Okay, so The third pentacle of Venus works in the realm of sustained love and relational harmony. So we were talking about the first two pentacles are about attracting and igniting. This third one really builds, it's kind of like a structuring pentacle. Think of Saturn, but it's not Saturn. But it sustains, okay? So it really deepens bonds, it smooths out conflict, and it really aligns two people's energetic fields for long-term compatibility, right? This is a good one for fidelity. So I think it's essential for marriage work, any kind of family harmony situations that need to be addressed, and really friendship too. It's not all love and sex, romantic love and sex. Sometimes it's about friendship, our people. So, correspondences with this third pentacle. Um, there's a great Venus and Moon correspondence here. I would use like a blue lace agate or a rose quartz, blue or green candles, lavender, a full moon. Fridays are kind of like the preferred day, of course, but again, you can play with this. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what works well, like in terms of harmonizing your work. Some examples here. Relationship harmony. This could be between two family members, two friends. It really can be in any situation. It doesn't have to be romantic or sexual, but I would keep the seal between photographs of the two people to align their energy. You can refresh this each full moon with just a drop of lavender oil. For family and friendship specifically, I would draw this seal on a blue candle and burn it while praying or petitioning for peace in the home, or if it's a troubled friendship, for peace in that friendship or that energetic bridge of friendship. And just kind of let it work quietly. This isn't something you want to clamor over every day. For marriage and partnership, I love using the third pentacle in hand fasting. So, as some of you know, I am ordained to perform ceremonies, a variety of ceremonies through the UAC. Is it the UAC? I keep forgetting. No, the ULC. I always get one of the letters wrong. So I'm ordained and I have done a variety of well, they're weddings, but they're hand fastings or they're native ceremonies. They obviously are in the realm of magic and spirituality. I love using the third pentacle for my witchy brides or my witchy grooms. It's a beautiful incorporation into everything that day. Any kind of commitment rituals, it really strengthens any existing union too. So anniversaries, I just I love this honestly as a consumption spell. I have used edible ink and printed it out on wafer paper and also on icing sheets. Or you can use just the edible ink pens. And then I have baked that right into a hand fasting or ritual cake. Let that melt. Okay, icing is going to melt down. There might be a little sweet spot there, but that's it. And then they consume it. They're really consuming that spell, which is very, very powerful. Um, it can be placed on the altar during vow work or vow renewals. Another thing I talk about a lot of times in marriage and partnership, there's an old ceremony, it's a medieval ceremony, where the bride and groom or bride and bride or what have you are exchanging how do I explain this? You have to be there, I guess. So you basically have two glasses of wine or champagne. You have a bowl of cassia chips. A lock of hair is taken from each partner. It is burnt in a little ritual bowl along with those cassia chips down to ash, and it is mixed into the wine or champagne, and then they drink from each other's glasses, and then they drink their own. Now, I like incorporating the third pentacle of Venus into this. You can print that out or draw that out on rice paper, burn that rice paper right in there with the cassia chips and with the locks of hair. And then they consume that as part of the medieval binding or bonding ritual. Um, Very, very powerful, very, very potent. Conflict resolution. So, writing both names on a petition, surround that with the seal, and then steep that in a reconciliation bath salt mix. And then I would burn that on a waning moon. So that's just another example of how you can work with this particular pentacle or seal. And I promise next month I will do the remaining rituals with Mama Bridget, Pumbaa Gira, and Lilith. I just really thought that I should knock this out this month, give you guys this tool for your toolbox. Those of you that are doing the rituals that I'm rolling out with the dark goddesses, this is a great pentacle or seal sort of tool. These are 5 wonderful tools you can actually incorporate into these rituals I'm rolling out. So that's why I wanted to get these out to you before I set out the next set of rituals. All right. So the fourth pentacle of Venus is the seal of beauty and power. So it's among, I would say, the most assertive of the Venusian seals, right? It's a very assertive energy. It combines very soft powers of attraction with very directed will. Okay. It's very useful when love magic needs teeth, right? It needs teeth. It's a tough situation sometimes, right? It's excellent for situations where there's resistance, your stubborn targets in the world. If there's energetic blockage, lineage blockage, if there is the ace of spades present with that cross conditioning, or where you just need to establish dominance in a romantic or even a social dynamic. Again, it's not always romance and love. We always think that with Venus, and that's just not the case. But dominance, dominating works. For those of you who have hired me to complete turkey heart puppets for you, I use turkey hearts for domination works, whether that's with a partner, if that's in, again, a social dynamic, in the workplace, whoever I'm targeting with that loaded turkey heart. I typically use ash of the fourth pentacle. So just kind of an FYI for you guys that have had me do that service for you. All right, correspondences. Iron nails, again, lodestones, commanding or compelling oils, red and black candles, cinnamon and rose for this one. And then the Saturn hour on Friday, though. That gives you constraint along with Venus's influence. So that's a good combination. So when we're talking about compelling work, so when attraction isn't moving, right? When that magic hasn't moved someone, it keeps hitting a brick wall. This seal can really add more of a directive force. I mean, sometimes as finely as we tune in and dial in these works, if there's a lot of resistance, we do need to take it a step further. This seal is great for doing that. I would use it with a compelling oil and a red candle petition, of course. You want to bring in the deidal solicitation. You want to bring in the element of fire. You want to bring in that frequency and vibration. You want to kind of cross all those T's and dot all those I's because this is more trickier work. For protective love, you can carry it to ensure that your emotional energy is not drained or even exploited in romantic situations. I have a lot of clients. I'm like, I do a reading for them or I do a synastry report on them, and I'm like, fourth pentacle of Venus. It does draw love in, but it draws it in on your terms. Okay, sometimes we forget about that. The fine print, you guys. The fine print's always important. I love domination. Again, I love the turkey heart for this. But if you write your target's name 9 times on a petition, you draw this seal over it, fold it towards you, fix it with some sort of commanding oil, and then work that during a waxing moon. That's pretty potent stuff too. And it's very easy. You don't have to go out and get yourself a turkey heart. For spiritual work or spirit work, you can use this to compel Venusian spirits and intelligences, entities during planetary evocations, evocations, whatever, incantations. I would always open and close the ritual properly, of course, but this is a good pentacle to use if you are calling in and working with Aphrodite. I mean, Aphrodite is probably the primary one. Vesta, Vesta's one. I'm trying to think of who else this would work really well with. Um, so Vesta, Aphrodite, those are the 2 primary ones. I mean, you could use it with probably a lot of other ones, but those are the 2 that I think these would work. This would work probably best with. Athena, I guess a little bit. She's more Mars, but Venus works for Athena too. All right, the fifth pentacle of Venus, the seal of rapture and ecstasy, right? Where am I going? I'm like disappearing. All right, so this is the most mystical and spiritually elevated of the five pentacles of Venus, right? It touches on very ecstatic experience, divine union, and the rapturous aspects of love as a spiritual state. So we're taking up the frequency here. So you can use this to call upon Venusian spirits again. We were just talking about that. To open to experiences of beauty and bliss environmentally, and to elevate love itself as a spiritual practice and path. This is where sacred sexuality practices really can bloom. So, if you're coming into a practice that involves sex magic or sacred sexuality, if you go back a year or so on my YouTube, you'll find those initial videos where I walk you through the process of doing your golden shadow work first. Using the fifth pentacle of Venus while doing that golden shadow work is priceless, spiritually priceless. It really, really not only opens up the doors, but it helps you to walk through them. Another thing with this fifth pentacle of Venus is so I have a yoni ritual as part of my sacred sexuality practice. So once a week, I have this really great yoni steam. It's my new one. It actually has red lights and infrared, low infrared built into the yoni steam pot. Gets up to about 109 degrees. Very comfortable. I mean, these are coming a long way. Remember when it was just like a wooden box with a hole in it, and and you would just sit there, right? They have come a long way. They're very technologically advanced, but in my new one, you have your little pot that you fill with water, you fill with your herbs as you're setting up to do that yoni ritual steam. You can get water soluble or water dissolvable paper on Amazon. I get that paper, I draw out the fifth pentacle of Venus, and I put that in my yoni steam pot. So that melts into the water and is steamed up with the herbal steam during my yoni ritual. So that's something I personally do. I feel it benefits me, it keeps me elevated. It's something you can try if you have a yoni steam practice or if that's part of your sex working practice. But I think it's very, very beneficial to use the fifth pentacle in that way. Anyways, moving on. Correspondences besides steaming your vagina. I have frankincense and rose combined. Amethyst, I love amethyst. That is the yogini stone. It is the chakra opening stone. That is probably my favorite correspondence. Purple or deep rose candles. I like fresh roses. I think fresh roses are beautiful here. If you can get purple roses, or you can get white carnations and you can use purple dye, let them sit overnight in water, pull the dye up their stems, and you can turn them purple. So there's that too. Or white roses, same thing. Although I think carnations, I don't know if they're just more porous or what it is, but they seem to take the color better, whereas roses sometimes they depending on where you're getting them, they don't always like to take the color readily. High John the Conqueror root for extra power, definitely recommend as a correspondence here. So other ways you can work with this fifth pentacle: spirit communication. You can use this during rituals to invoke any Venusian intelligences. So usually that's the love goddesses. Like I said, we talked about Aphrodite, but Freya, Oshun, they definitely qualify here, right? Any ancestors of love. My great 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 grandma, I have used this to solicit her and call her into divination sessions. You can place it on an altar as a focal point. Bliss and trance states. You can draw it on parchment, burn frankincense and rose resin, meditate to access deep states of beauty consciousness. So I shouldn't say a lot, but I have had quite a few over the years who have come to me wanting physical change. They want to be taller. They want these different physical presentation, energetic modifications. And as you know, that I mean, unless you're doing some crazy ceremonial blood magic, that's going to be hard to do. Um, However, working with the fifth pentacle of Venus and working it with a trance in a trance state over a long period of time, this isn't going to happen overnight. You may solicit a presentation change where it's not actually a physical change, but an observation. We talk about in physics and quantum theory the observer effect. That is very much part of any magical practice, and this might trigger an observer effect transmutation for that individual. So, something to keep in mind. Again, sacred sexuality, you can incorporate this into devotional and sex magic practices. This fifth pentacle elevates physical union to a spiritual act. So, if you're partnered up, or if you have multiple, if you're doing a group, whatever you're doing, I don't judge, whatever you're doing, this is something that will benefit you as a solo practitioner in a partnered scenario or in a group scenario. Love is path. Okay, so for practitioners working love as a spiritual discipline, we do have lots of those practitioners out there. It aligns with the highest octave of Venus, right? So the divine feminine principle in all beings. So this is definitely something, if you are a love practice practitioner, definitely you should be using the fifth pentacle of Venus, or at least consider it. It would definitely help your practice. All right, so I kind of gave you a cheat sheet here. Let's move me out of the way. My God, I keep doing this. So, um, we kind of break down the pentacles here on the left: grace, desire, harmony, power, and rapture, 1 through 5. The primary powers from attraction and magnetism, all the way to spiritual love and ecstasy, and what they're best for. You know, again, everything from first impressions to spirit work or sacred union. And then the moon phases that they work great in these moon phases. Even if you're just activating the pentacle itself during this moon phase and then saving it to use it for a later date, that works as well, you guys. You don't have to be like too over fixated on that. All right. May Venus guide your work and love flow freely through all you cast. But I got more. We're doing a case study, so don't disappear. Hang on. Let me close this out. Let me stop sharing this. There I am again. Let me open up my case study. I love doing these case studies. I think that it's a great way to show this work in action. I got a lot of compliments with it when I did the case study for Pentacles of Jupiter using myself as the case study. So we're doing the same thing, only we're doing Venus. So let's open that up. All right. Ooh, this one came back. Why is it not? Geesh. All right, where's my case study? All right, you guys. Ugh, every time I email something to myself, I have to hit all these freaking buttons. All right, so this is a chart aligned working guide. I do this for clients. It's a custom, if somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey, I'm, working this situation, can you give me a formula of what I can do and how to do it and when to do it to manifest this?" This would be what that would look like, okay, using astrology. So my Venus, okay, wait, I'm the third party. Hang on. I always forget. Like I start referencing it as me. I'm supposed to be like a neutral third party. Okay. So this client of mine, their Venus setup. Let's talk about it. So, Venus rules their third and 10th houses, Libra and Taurus, on those cusps, placing this planet at the intersection of voice and platform and public reputation and career. So, this person's natal Venus is in Capricorn in the 6th house, which is very disciplined. It's very strategic, very slow burning. So, she earns rather than charms in this setting, this energetic setting. Love and beauty are tied directly to this person's daily practice and their service work. So, their north node is parallel their Venus, along with the sun and Mercury, which means Venus aligned work is not just productive for this person, it's karmic. So, it's part of what this person came here to do. It's part of their soul contract, right? Their destiny point. So, this person is in a Jupiter ruled perfection year. with Jupiter at 0 degrees Cancer on the Aries point. So whatever they magnetize this year has the potential to land publicly and loudly for this person. So it is important to start throwing every tool they got at this, right? So let's talk about how they would use these pentacles of Venus with that astrological makeup, right? So the first pentacle of Venus, that of grace and magnetism, it's the most important one right now for this individual. So with Jupiter about to cross their ascendant on June 30th, and the nodal axis shifting into their first and seventh house axes from July 27th, presence is the spell this year for this person, the whole presentation piece. So the first pentacle is going to amplify exactly what the transits are already building for this person, right? Grace, favor, the quality of being someone people want to be near, which isn't always the case. Anyway, moving on. So how should this person work with it? I would tell them to wear it or carry it, this particular pentacle, the first one, consistently right now through the Jupiter ingress in their chart, right? They should activate it on a Friday during the Venus hour with Rose, and then this is like their daily carry pentacle for 2026, honestly. So if I break it down even further for this person, I would say when we're looking at glamour and presence, this person has a Leo ascendant with an incoming Jupiter ingress. It's going to make this year kind of like a very magnetic year in general for them, but this is going to help land that magnetism, right? It's the amplifier. So when we look at their career or their public work, Venus rules this person's 10th house in Taurus, right? So the first pentacle for them is going to open doors. So that's, maybe bookings or visibility or, convention receptions, things of that nature for this person. Again, I'm kind of trying to teach you how to look at your chart, what to look at, and then how to incorporate these things by doing this little weird case study. This is new to me. I just started doing this a couple weeks ago to incorporate into these PowerPoints just to make it easier to digest the information, right? So, as a daily talismanic device, I would tell this person activated on copper on a Friday in the Venus hour with Rose, wear it consistently through June 30th. And then for client attraction, this person has a spiritual practice. They can place it on their altar before doing readings, before doing any sessions. It's going to draw the right people into this person's orbit, not just any people, the right people. Okay. So now let's talk about that second pentacle of Venus for this person, which is the desire and passion pentacle. They're going to hold this for late June slash July, that window of late June, early July. And that's, where am I here? Boy, I gotta maybe not do a Word document for this, but let's work with what I did already. So for the second pentacle, the timing windows identified in this person's chart really is at late June, early July period, very particularly for them because this is when the Venetian attraction, like that magic, has the most traction for this person. It's going to be different for everybody based on your chart. But working this one too early under the current Saturn Neptune square to their seventh house sun could really muddy the waters. And that's why I would encourage this person to hold off. Don't work with this during this particular energy. They need to wait. So, how are they going to work it? They're going to let that Jupiter ingress land first, which is June 30th for them. And they're going to work that second pentacle in that first Venus hour of their Jupiter and Leo era. That is going to be a potent opening ritual for this person. So, breaking it down a little bit further, timing is everything, you guys. It really is. So, right now, this person has Saturn, Neptune squaring their sun. And it is going to muddle up any kind of desire work for this person, right? So they need to wait for Jupiter's ascendant to cross before activating this seal. Now, when we're talking about specific attraction, once that window opens late June, this seal is the one for them to work with for drawing any specific person, any specific connection that they're working on toward them. The opening ritual I would recommend to this person working with the second pentacle first Venus hour of their Jupiter and Leo era after June 30th, and then to work this as an intentional opening. Red candles, come to me oil, straightforward petitioning. Then for the rekindling aspect, right? If there were an existing connection that they were trying to deepen, the waxing moon in late June, early July is probably the perfect moment for them to do this work. And again, I'm looking at their chart and I'm looking at how the Pentacles of Venus are going to work best for them. I'm going to probably ask them questions about like what their goals are, what their relationships look like, what's their career goals, their professional life goals, because that's going to kind of help me fine tune this for that person as well. Now, the third Pentacle of Venus. So this is specifically going to affect this individual for the seventh house work that they're doing. So right now, Saturn and Neptune are both squaring this person's seventh house Aquarian sun right now. So that puts pressure on partnership structures. It's going to test what's real versus what is projected. Okay. The third pentacle is not about drawing a new person. Okay. It is about kind of calibrating your current relationships, those relational fields. So how they should work it. They should work this one during the full moon to kind of clarify what kind of partnership actually fits their energy. It's also excellent for their client relationships. So their sixth house Venus, say that 3 times fast, means harmonious working relationships. You know, that's a Venus function too, you guys. We always think of romance and love, but really, you know, that relationship you have with your clients, with your customers, with your teachers, with your bosses, this is a harmonization pentacle. So let's first look at putting it in action, the relational calibration point here of that third pentacle of Venus for this person's astrology. They're in a Saturn Neptune square that it's squaring their sun. It's testing their partnership reality. This seal is going to help them to clarify what they actually want versus what this person's maybe been projecting from their own fragmentation. Client harmonization. Again, Venus in this person's sixth house makes this directly relevant to their daily practice. Smooth, aligned client relationships are a Venus function. They need to use that or activate it. The full moon working. I would definitely tell this person to place this seal between photos of people they want alignment with. I would tell them to anoint that with lavender and refresh it on each full moon going forward. And then the family and community piece here. So this person has a Sagittarius moon in the fourth, right? So they crave expansive belonging. They need it. And they need to work this seal for the broader community of practitioners around their work. So this individual actually does co-op with other practitioners. So this is a beautiful seal, a pentacle for them to incorporate to benefit that community that they work with, the other practitioners in it, you know? Share the love, bring in the abundance for everybody, right? That's how you bless yourself sometimes, is by blessing others. Moving into the fourth. Oh, I need a sip. I'm going dry already, you guys. I think it's because I've had my central air on for like 2 days now without stopping. All right. The fourth pentacle of Venus. So this is selectivity on this person's terms, really, at the end of the day. So this person has Saturn at 28 degrees Leo in their first house natally. They're actually in the process of writing a book about that and their life experiences because of that placement. I think they sent out an e-newsletter recently, and they also did a post on Substack and Patreon with some prefaces and subchapters they've already created for that book. And they would love your opinion on that book. They might even give you a free work or a reading if you would just give them your opinion, because they're nervous about it. Anyway, moving forward. So this person carries this very distinct energy. It's already an innate quality of dignified authority, but it costs them energy to assert it into relationships. Okay. So that fourth pentacle is very useful for this person when they need to hold their ground in very dynamic situations where, their energy is being taken for granted. So, how should they work it? They need to work this as a protective love, almost like sovereign. I can't talk today. Sovereign ritual. I can't talk. You know what I mean. Read it. It's right there on the screen share. Rather than a compelling one. Okay. So the framing here, I would tell this person is I love on my terms. My energy is not available for discount. Okay. And that's probably an affirmation this person should be doing every day in a mirror anyway. A little bit of mirror magic. So sovereignty is I can't talk, you guys. I spelt the word, I can say the word, but I've been talking too long now. You guys know once I've been on a roll talking, my tongue starts getting all wibbly wobbly. So let's talk about love. Saturn in this person's first house knows authority, but relationships still pull them off center, right? So this seal helps anchor them in their own gravitational field so they're not getting sucked into everybody else's. Energy protection. I think that this particular individual has had some patterns that have recently resolved, and those dynamics of resolution maybe dim their light a little bit. And the fourth pentacle is insurance for this person against re-entering that toxic, unhealthy field of relational exchanges that don't benefit them. There's a protective framing here too. So carrying this when they're in situations where someone historically has taken more than they give from this person is a good idea. This is a boundary seal, not a compelling one, but it is a boundary activator. So this person should be carrying it when they're interacting with people who have taken advantage of them before. Eclipses are incoming, right? So the eclipse cycle is hitting this person on their first and seventh axis in July through, just starting this July all the way through 2028. Now, this is going to keep reshaping their relational field. So this seal can really help them to kind of stay the protagonist in the story. So I would definitely recommend it for that reason alone. So that was number 4. Let's look at number 5. So the fifth pentacle, this person has a spiritual practice, and this pentacle would really be a great anchor for that for them. So this person has Chiron in the 4th house, Neptune in the 5th, and a Sag moon conjunct Uranus. So they have very deeply mystical, expansive inner worlds, multiple ones that their outer life does not really get to fully express. Okay. How would you? The fifth pentacle is the one for this person to work with in private devotional practices, right? Private practices that don't involve other people. That's what private means, especially around this person's ancestral and lineage work. Okay, so how they should work with it. This person's a 6th generation practitioner. Okay, so the fifth pentacles resonance, right, with spirit communication and love as a spiritual path is essentially a description of this person's inheritance, right? So they should work with it on the dark moon or new moons, right? With frankincense, rose. It's going to open things up as an invitation to that lineage for them. So they're not maybe having to work so hard at it. So the ancestral lineage work points with the fifth pentacle of Venus for this person. 6 generations of practice are behind them. This fifth pentacle opens the channel to that lineage in love working, right? Invoking them as sort of co-practitioners. So it's not just them casting spells, it's a whole group of them casting spells. And their devotional practice, this person has Neptune in the 5th and they have a moon conjunct Uranus. So they crave mystical experiences, right? And this seal is how Venus enters this person's inner spiritual world. So it's not just their outer work, it is their inner work as well. When we look at the spirit communication piece, So this person may want to invoke Aphrodite, Oshun, Freya. I'm just using examples here, or whatever personal love-based lineage spirits in the transient world of spirit that they work with. The fifth pentacle is the formal, again, channel opener for this individual. And then there's the sacred creative work, right? So Neptune rules creativity. And the fifth house rules self expression. Okay, so this seal blesses art, content, writing, if this person's writing a book right now, and any creative output that they're going to make from that spiritual center. So, I mean, this is just a great pentacle for them to be using just for those reasons alone. All right, so then we're going to look at the breakdown here. So if we look at the 2026 working sequences of using these pentacles in this case study for this individual, this would be the suggested timeline aligned to their transits. Again, you can do this for yourself. Get your natal, look at your transits, what's going to benefit you, where and how, what's going on in your life, what does your life look like? Start placing these seals in areas that are going to benefit you. So for this individual right now through June 29th, listen, the pentacle that they should be carrying every day is the first one. The third pentacle would be that full moon one we talked about, right? It's the full moon ritual. That Saturn Neptune squaring in the seventh house with the sun, that's a period of calibration, not aggressive attraction work for this person. So they need to let that first pentacle build their field and the third one clarify what they actually want in partnership. That's right now through June 29th. Starting June 30th onward, this person has Jupiter in Leo in the first house. So that's when they're going to add the second pentacle for attraction work. They're still going to keep that first pentacle active, okay? But that Jupiter ingress on their ascendant is sort of like the green light for magnetism work at full volume now for them. So they're going to work that second pentacle, and the first Venus hour of this new era is sort of like an opening ritual for themselves. Then we're going into July 27th onward. Again, this person has a nodal axis shift to Leo Aquarius. So they're going to add that fourth pentacle, okay, for sovereignness, and that fifth pentacle for the ancestral devotional work. Now, the eclipse cycle begins on this person's first seventh axis and will continue through 2028. The fourth pentacle is going to keep them centered in their own gravity. And the fifth one is going to open the lineage channel as their relational landscape sort of reshapes with this shift. So that would be the working sequence timeline that I would formulate and kind of suggest and recommend to this individual. And then I would include this quick reference. So again, it's all five pentacles, their primary powers, what they're best for, and the moon phases. So this is what that case study kind of looks like. I like doing these. This is only the second one I've done as an example to you guys. When I do these reports for you guys watching this or any of my clients, they're very, very similar. I kind of got into a little bit more nitty gritty in this because I wanted you to have a good understanding of how you would implement these pentacles based on a chart, based on upcoming transits and progressions, kind of targeting different areas of your life from relationships to career. So again, play with your chart, look at the pentacles, see what might work well for you and put a formula together, get a timeline together. I think working with the pentacles is a beautiful, magical process, especially in sacred sexuality, especially when we're talking about sex magic, right? So I wanted to roll this out to you guys this month as part of our Sacred Sexuality EDU series so that next month, when I jump back into those next 9 rituals in working with the dark goddesses, this is another tool for your toolbox. You can start implementing this along with all the other tools that we talk about in this series. And other than that, you guys, I hope you're having a great Memorial Day weekend and stay magical.